This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everyone. I truly believe that most of us don't realize the true importance of our gut, our stomachs, what's going on down there. We just take it for granted. You eat something, maybe a little discomfort, it's fine. My stomach will take care of it. Then do it again. Then you do it again. Years go by. You know what? I can eat. I can drink pizza. I can have beer and pizza first thing in the morning. My stomach will take care of it. But not so much. There's more going on there. There's something called microbiomes that supports healthy gut and so much more. We're going to talk about that and how it changes as you get older and the difference between men and women. She is a registered naturopathic doctor and offers lots of insight, but specifically when it comes to your gut health. She is Dr. Laura Brown. She's back with us again today. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thanks, Steve. Thank you very much. How are you?
Didn't you write a book about gut health?
Yes, Beyond Digestion, How Gut Health Connects to Your Mind, Body, and Soul. So it's a book that talks about gut health, but it also talks about how it connects to so many other aspects. And it has some patient stories and things like that to help people relate to how important our gut health is.
Love it. And that connection, we don't realize that connection when you're eating the garbage food. And you just, once again, my stomach will take care of that. It's done it before. We'll be okay. Might have a little discomfort occasionally, but you might not correlate the way you feel with what you're eating and the health of your gut. Many of us don't make that connection. We're going to do it today, starting with microbiomes. What are they?
Well, essentially, a microbiome is a collection of bacteria, fungus, yeast, and other types, sometimes viruses as well. And it's throughout your entire body. So it's on your skin, it's in your eyes, it's in your organs, but it's specifically and in high intensity in the large intestine where we ferment our food, and it creates, other types of byproducts that help us turn on our immune system, regulate hormones, digest our food. It makes vitamins like vitamin A and vitamin Bs. It makes neurotransmitters, which are brain chemicals. And it does this in such an intricate way. And no one microbiome the same. It's all like your fingerprint, unique.
I'm going to pivot for just a moment because I just heard this recently, how we should be careful about eating. And you sparked this because you said that our large intestine, there's fermentation taking place. But I heard that we should stay away from foods that are fermented or can be. Like, for example, yogurt. Many of them don't go there. There's a lot of course, there's sugars and things in them. But that and some other foods that would ferment. Have you heard that? Does that make any sense? I just heard this recently.
Yeah, I'm wondering where you heard it, because fermented foods have been consumed for thousands of years, and they're actually what helps populate and keep our guts healthy. And our microbiome helps replenish our microbiome. So when you're eating natural yogurt that is, full fat and is not sweetened by anything, so, like a Greek yogurt, for example, it's full of the lactobacillus and bifidobacteria strains, which help, keep our natural microbiome healthy. Other types of fermented foods might be kombucha. Is like a fermented black tea. You have to be a little bit careful with that because there's, can be sugar there. It could be some strains that might not be so healthy for the gut. But then we have apple cider vinegar that's unpasteurized. And unpasteurized means has the natural bacteria in it. And it hasn't been heated, because heat would kill the bacteria. So we don't want anything that's been heated in that regard. And that's very healthy for the gut. It can do a lot of very good things for our digestive tract, apple cider vinegar.
How does that work? I'll be honest. I have a bottle of it sitting on my counter. I bought it months ago. It says doesn't need to be refrigerated. And I know it's probably good for me, but I haven't dug into it yet. I don't even know how much to take.
Yeah, typically, and I won't give like medical advice because that would be, not correct for me to provide that in a situation like this. But traditionally, what's accepted is like a tablespoon or two of apple cider vinegar, and that can help with digestion. You're adding some acid in, its acidic nature.
Hmm.
So you're adding some acid in. Sometimes people's stomach acid is actually too low, so it can actually help aid in the digestive process. We need good stomach acid in order to denature the bad bacteria that might be coming in with our food, and also to trigger on natural enzymes to help digest the food that would come in from the pancreas, trigger the bile that would help digest fats. Natural stomach acid also helps us absorb iron, and additionally releases intrinsic factor in the gut so that you can attach to the vitamin B12 so that it can be absorbed. There's lots of things that help that are helped by having a good level of stomach acid. It's meant to be high. So the apple cider vinegar can traditionally, it's thought that it retrains the parietal cells in the stomach lining, and the parietal cells are responsible for releasing the stomach acid. So it helps retrain them. So that it can, and you might have low stomach acid if you have an overgrowth of, say, H. pylori, which is a gram-negative bacteria that a lot of people carry, but sometimes as it gets into a higher amount, it can make us have lower acid in the stomach, which then can down the road lead to nutritional deficiencies because you're not absorbing those things we talked about so much.
Going to jump back to microbiomes in a second, but you're at stomach acid, and
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that many times when we have discomfort, maybe some reflux or what feels like it, we equate it to, well, I got overproduction of acid and it's coming up and all of that. But I've heard also, I got to check these sources, that it's a not enough stomach acid. And that's where a lot of us go wrong. Is that possible?
It is possible, and it's often the case. There's something called like a hydrochloric acid test where you can take they're called betaine HCl capsules. So you can take them, and you take them until you start to burp up. And if you can take a lot of them before you burp, then you probably have low stomach acid. And you need to do this kind of medically supervised so you know how many are safe to take. But it's a way to test.
Hmm.
And often medical doctors will prescribe the proton pump inhibitors, which are,
Yes.
slowing down the acid production because of this regurgitation that's happening. And, sometimes it's warranted, but not always. And, obviously we're not going to take any kind of apple cider vinegar or any kind of acid if we have stomach ulcers. And those ulcers can be from that H. pylori, right? That can be some of the course of action that happens there. And we can test for H. pylori by breath, by stool, by blood. So there's different ways to see if we have that overgrowth of that particular bacteria. But
Hmm.
not all. Sometimes there's a valve at the top of the stomach, between the stomach and the esophagus, and sometimes that valve gets leaky. It gets lazy. So we have some things, the stomach churns and mixes and does things mechanically as well as chemically. So obviously, if the valve is kind of flappy and not working well, and you've got this churning and stuff, it's like putting a blender on without the lid. It's just, it's going to come up anyway. But it may not be. This valve might be a little bit lazy for different reasons. So it's important to understand that. So, naturopathically, we look at, okay, how do we protect the esophageal lining? A lot of people look to deglycerinated licorice or some kind of demulcent herb in order to help coat the lining so that we don't end up burning our esophagus with that stomach acid, because we don't want that. And then things that we would help to repair that valve that's become leaky. And there's some specific herbal medicines that we use for that, some plant extracts that are very helpful in toning that leaky valve. And then there's foods that would typically aggravate or irritate, which would be like citrus or chocolate or peppermint or things like that. We would avoid for the time being in order to help that valve heal so that we're not aggravating the situation.
Fully illustrating once again, there's more going on down there than
Yeah.
we realize. So back to microbiomes. How does it differ in men and women?
Well, that we found that the hormones do make a difference in what's going on in the balance of the microbiome. And when they've done research studies, even on twins that are fraternal twins, and that the male and the female aspects of it, they've looked at, how are their microbiomes different? Our microbiomes are also different, not just from male and female, but from how we are raised in life, how we were born, even the microbiome of our father and our mother at time of conception, because sperm is made within 90 days. And so what's going on there is impacting. And then the mother's microbiome intrinsically, because the baby is growing up in her body, there is translocation of bacterial substances that are from the microbiome into the fetus before it's even born. So it is
Wow.
starting to get seeded with things. We know that it's not a sterile environment, and the whether a baby is born vaginally or by cesarean section can make a difference in what microbes are being picked up in their initial introduction into this world. And then we know breastfeeding versus formula can make a difference. But we know by the time a child reaches about 3, there is some normalcy, some things that kind of level off. Again, it's always a unique fingerprint of what we have in our microbiome. Not one is the same. So there's not like a carte blanche of this is the perfect microbiome. No, there's these ebbs and flows, but there's more and more research being done to show how there's differences. Now, females with the estrogen and the progesterone cycling and changing through their menstrual cycle, as well as when they get towards perimenopause and menopause, when the cycles begin to slow down and stop, there's track changes through the cycling monthly and then through the course of the lifetime that rotates around the estrogen dominance or what's happening there. There are certain microbes inside the large intestine that release what's called beta glucuronidase. And this is essentially um, just think of it as a little elf that can either take the estrogen that's been packaged up by the liver to be, passed out through the system as part of detoxifying the excess estrogen in the body. And this beta glucuronidase elf can just unwrap that bow and let the estrogen out of the package, and then it starts recirculating into the system. So if we have an excess amount of microbes that are making this particular little elf, then we end up with a lot more estrogen recirculating into the female system. And this can put an increased risk for certain types of estrogen-based cancers because we're not properly detoxifying and ridding ourselves of the estrogen that's sitting in our system.
Mm.
And this becomes an issue for females, but also for males in the sense that our environment has so many xenoestrogens or these fake estrogens that come from like plastics and pharmaceutical drugs that are in our water, for example. So we're getting estrogens that are coming into our body that are foreign. They're not even like a natural chemical. And the liver doesn't really know what to do with it, and the body doesn't know what to do with it in order to fully detoxify. So we end up with more and more recirculating estrogens within the body, which is increasing our estrogen load. And this is putting other hormones out of balance. So a lot of this can have to do with the microbiome.
You talked about twins and the comparison. I have a twin sister,
Oh, there
and
you go. Oh, there you go. You're the example.
well, here you go. I've dealt with ulcers over the years, all fine now, but just from stress. I know it's from stress. Mitigated that, it's all good. My sister, who has anxiety and can be stressed out, to my knowledge, never had an issue with any ulcers, any issues, anything like that. We're 15 minutes apart in age. So interesting when you mentioned that. I was like, then I started thinking, yeah, she hasn't dealt with that. And there's other things that, vice versa. One deals with, one doesn't. But two kids born at the same time. It's interesting what happens and what doesn't, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm. What do we want to do to support microbiomes?
Well, there's things called prebiotics, and there's things called probiotics, and then there's even things called postbiotics. The prebiotics are, eating the yogurt like we talked about earlier, and
Mhm.
those fermented foods. Okay. Sometimes we're taking a prebiotic in a capsule or in a drink, in a kefir, for example. Kefir can be a fermented milk product, whether that's coconut milk or natural milk or goat's milk. You're just fermenting the milk. So there's fermentation there. In some cheeses, there's fermentation that happens. So some of the higher quality cheeses, there's appropriate bacteria in there that would help us out as well. So we top it up, okay? And then the prebiotics, okay, so that's that. But then we have um, we have the probiotics, which are those, sorry, and then we have the prebiotics. So the probiotics are the bacterial based foods. The prebiotics are the fibers that we feed the bacteria in the gut. So the prebiotics are, get more fiber in the diet. We need up to 35 grams a day of a variety of different fiber-based foods. And most Americans are getting around 5 grams a day. So we have to really look at, what's in our
Mm.
food. And this is a lot of whole natural food. Nuts and seeds are high in fiber. Um, we have, psyllium seed husk, flax. Those things are often traditionally thought of in when we're thinking of prebiotics, but also beans and legumes. Those have a lot of prebiotics in them, and there's many more, like lots of vegetable parts of the vegetables would have fiber in there that we're feeding the gut. And we have to think we want a balanced microbiome, so we want to feed it a varied diet. So we're actually feeding the bugs in our gut when we're getting a high fiber diet.
And what was the
And
other one? Pro,
the
pre?
Yeah, so the pro were the bacteria-based foods, the pre
Yep.
were the fibers, and the postbiotics is a new
Okay.
thing on the market, is to actually provide in a capsule things that your bacterial microbiome would actually make. So the postbiotics are the byproducts of fermentation, just like a manufacturing plant. Sometimes you have a byproduct that is a valuable source of resource for making something else. Our microbiome makes short chain fatty acids, for example, butyrate. Sometimes we can take butyrate in a capsule if we're short term, if need be, if we don't have proper production within our gut. So there's 5 different short chain fatty acids. Those are responsible for turning on and off circadian rhythms and immune system functions, things like that. There's also bile acids and secondary bile acids. So the primary bile acids coming out of the bile that the liver makes, that the gallbladder stores and then releases, and then it gets changed into a secondary bile acid down in the lower intestine, and that has its own properties and principles of what it might do. So TUDCA or TUDCA is a supplement that is actually a secondary bile acid. So some of these things we can actually take postbiotic in a pill, but we're better just to feed the good guys in our gut with a nice varied whole food healthy diet.
Do you take anything in terms of supplements to support?
Absolutely, yes. Looking at genetic analysis, when I'm looking at my own, I know I have a genetic SNP that prevents me from maintaining and keeping a microbiome on my own. So I know for me, it's really helpful to take a probiotic ongoing. And I really like a cultured coconut kefir. There's a particular Canadian brand that I personally like, so I'll take that. If I have certain things on the go and I need different types of support, I might have something more targeted, but that's just a really nice overall one. And then my diet daily is really rich in fiber, a lot of prebiotics. So I focus more on the probiotics and the prebiotics, which are basically food based, because that's most important to me, is to go there first so that we're into that, fire prevention versus firefighting mode.
You study this, you have for many, many years. You help people support them through natural healing and wellness. Are you still amazed at what our bodies do and how they do it?
Every single day, Steve, every single day. There's always something new we're learning. And I always say that we're only catching up on with the research. We're only catching up on things that have been working and in operation without us knowing, as you talked about, for thousands of years. And then we get this discovery that you know this does that, and it's like, of course, it's been doing it for eons. We just didn't study it,
Right.
and it doesn't mean it wasn't doing it. But it's amazing how things connect and come together. I just love and am fascinated how the body's knit together. It's what keeps me going in what I do every single day. And everybody's body's a bit different.
Yeah. And it is fascinating how if you give your body what it needs, fully balanced, you're in sync, everything is there, it can heal itself. It can, and it will run like a well-tuned car for a very long time with no issue if you don't give it issues, but we do, i.e. the pizza, 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever you choose to eat. We just take it for granted, right?
Yeah, we do. We can take it for granted. When everything's working well, we do, right? We don't even you're not even thinking about your left pinky right now. But if you were to slam it in the door, you'd be thinking about it constantly for a little while.
Yeah. How do we connect with you? If somebody, I know that you're in Canada, have to be there for you to work with somebody on some levels, but also virtually on other levels. Tell us about that. Best way to find you.
Best way to find me is on the website, Steve. It's drlaurambrown.com. So that's DRLAURA, M as in Marie, Brown.com. And off of there, you'll see a number of blog posts. You'll see resources to connect on different courses that I've created, and also the Beyond Digestion book, the link to Amazon. It's available worldwide. So out on that. So lots of different ways that you can connect if you're not seeing me as a patient in Ontario.
Yeah. You mentioned a link to the book. That is a link to happiness and health. Reading that book and understanding what's going on there. By the way, I just wanted to share with you, I mentioned my twin sister. Her name is Laura.
Oh, nice.
You
Very
can't make
good.
that up.
Very good.
Thank you so much for being here today and all the insight as usual.
Thank you very much, Steve. Great questions today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the insight. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.